narrative theory, Larry Cochran associated with that, just recognizes that when we sit with somebody and try to get them to tell us what's important, it's not like the stuff is in there and we could just go in there and, like the Vulcan mind meld. I think you have to be old, a certain age to know what the Vulcan mind meld is, but it's not like it's in there and you just have to somehow suck it out or use a great assessment tool to pull it out. It's not like that. I don't think Larry came up with this, but the notion of telling a story not as archaeologists, but as architects. And the difference is, if I were an archaeologist and I'm going in to Brian's storehouse of information and his passions and things like that, it's in there, and all I got to do as an archaeologist is kind of dust off the stuff that doesn't relate to it, and it will emerge. It's there, and I just have to kind of clean it off, and it will somehow show up. That instead, it's more like I'm working with him as an architect, where you sit with an architect, and the architect says, tell me what it is that you're trying to create, and together the two of us will sit here and we will create this thing. It's not there already. We're going to build it, and it's built from some of the pieces, but we're going to create this thing. We're going to name it, and it's going to be based on stuff that's really in there. We're not making stuff up, but the whole thing that's going to emerge from that, we are making up. So, creating themes from the data. So when I'm talking with somebody, I'm listening to the things that they tell me about what it is they like, what it is they liked when they were growing up. But it's creating themes. It's not identifying themes. It's helping them create words for that somehow make sense out of all that. And I'm not going to rely so much on what they tell me. I'm not going to say to them, tell me what are some of the themes in your life, because again, they don't really have access to that. I'm going to say, let's talk about, give me some data. Tell me stories about your childhood. And make up some stuff about, like, what would your parents say about you as a kid? Like, what do you remember your parents saying about you as a kid? If you had siblings, how were you different from your siblings? When you were in your sorority or fraternity or your residence hall or wherever you were in college, how were you known? You were known as, what, the egghead? Were you known as the scientist? Were you the one, the playboy? Were you what did you look like when you were in college? And let's build a bunch of that data together and try to create some kind of a theme from that. And what would people say about you now? What would your partner say about you now? About some of your greatest strengths? Okay. Help them craft a compelling or evocative story from shards of truth. I apologize. I'm feeling very poetic in that moment. Too much coffee. That this has more to do with imagination than with facts, more to do with naming than with assessing. Get them to talk and to write. Can I tell stories about my strengths? Can I tell my liberal arts story? So if you got people who come out of liberal arts, they should be able to talk about why liberal arts is awesome and how it makes them super prepared for today's world of work. If they can't do that, they should be able to do that. Can I tell stories about myself that even evoke my gifts or my spirit? That when I hear this particular story about me, and I'm not talking about a story about an event, but if I tell the story about how I am how I'm somebody who really likes to look something up here, pay attention to the details. Okay, can I say that in a way that sort of gives me chills when I tell the story about how I pay attention to details and how excited I get about that? That sort of makes me want to do more of that. It evokes that from me. Okay, a lot of wordy stuff. Get them to listen to other people's stories. Have them ask their parents about their relationships to work. Have them ask other relatives. Have them ask their roommates about how they think about work. Have them talk to people.